Every week, Britain sends £350 million to Brussels.
Every week we send £350 million to Brussels. Money that's wasted. That's enough to build a new hospital every week. It will get worse. The euro is broken, and the EU plans to let in another 5 countries. Imagine what will happen when you're paying for the euro bailouts. Imagine what will happen to public services when Albania, Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia and Turkey join the EU. Imagine our money being spent on our priorities. You can make this happen. This might be our last chance. So let's take back control. Vote Leave on the 23rd of June.
The cost to Britain's economy of just the 100 top EU rules is more than £33 billion each year. The UK has lost control of their borders and their laws. They have no power to control the intake of migrants from within the EU. More than half of the laws and regulations passed each year which govern the lives of UK citizens originate not in their own parliament but in a foreign capital, enacted by people who they had no say in electing.
Views expressed by Herr Schulz meet the case. He is an undemocratic fascist.
He said after a visit to Brussels in 1974, he said, "The huge Commission building in Brussels is absolutely un-British. I felt as I were going as a slave to Rome. The whole relationship was wrong. Here was I, an elected man who could be removed, and here were these people with more power than I had and no accountability to anybody. My visit confirmed in a practical way all my suspicions that this would be the decapitation of British democracy without any countervailing advantage." That was written 42 years ago when we were only in the common market. How much worse today is the erosion of democracy since we've been sucked into the embrace of the European Union?
Then when I saw how the European Union was developing, it was very obvious that what they had in mind was not democratic. I mean, in Britain you vote for a government and therefore the government has to listen to you, and if you don't like it you can change it. But in Europe all the key positions are appointed, not elected. The Commission, for example, all appointed, not one of them elected. And the way that Europe has developed is that the bankers and the multinational corporations have got very powerful positions, and if you come in on their terms they will tell you what you can and cannot do, and that is unacceptable. And my view about the European Union has always been not that I'm hostile to foreigners, but I'm in favour of democracy. And I think out of this story we'll have to find an answer, because I certainly don't want to live in hostility to the European Union, but I think they're building an empire there, and they want us to be a part of that empire, and I don't want that.
I'm a great believer in helping those around the world in need, but it's time to put the interests of men and women and our communities first, and we can only do that by taking back control.
The title of this report is A Satirist's Dream, closing the gap between anti-corruption law and reality. I could fill my 60 seconds talking about the 18 years' worth of unaudited accounts, or the bazillions that are squandered on agriculture and foreign aid boondoggles, or the Tillack case where instead of any of the alleged fraudsters being arrested it was the journalist trying to find out about them who found himself banged up by the police. I could talk about the £6.6 million spent last year by European commissioners simply on entertainment and luxury gifts and hotels. I could talk about the wonderful spectacle of President Van Rompuy and Commissioner Ashton flying to the same meeting in Russia in separate private jets leaving Brussels within 4 hours of each other.
One of the problems that we've seen, and it's widespread all over Europe, is the problem with the public procurement. We see that bribery and corruption linked to public procurement are still very high. They affect all member states, and they are particularly problematic at regional and local level.
Britain's business chief has been suspended after supporting the camp calling for the UK to leave the European Union. John Longworth, the Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce, has said the UK would be better off exiting the 28-member bloc. But his comment was directly at odds with most of the members of the Chambers of Commerce who want the country to stay in the EU. Longworth was suspended following an emergency BBC board meeting. The organization, which represents thousands of British businesses, has already said it remains neutral on the so-called Brexit.
And one of the key arguments he was making is that it makes the UK and Europe safer to have a strong European Union. What's your response?
Well, how can it be patriotic to give away the ability to make your own laws, to have your own courts being supreme, the ability to control your own borders, and to give everybody a passport that says on it European Union? You know, you may argue economically it's good for us to become part of a bigger bloc, but it most certainly is not patriotic. Patriotic is believing we're good enough to run our own country and make our own laws.
I'm sure he is. Does he won't agree with what I said?
No, I don't agree with a word of it.
No, I didn't agree with a word of what you said.
The United States of America is not part of the European Union. It has increased its exports to the EU faster than the United Kingdom, which is a member of the European Union, and it doesn't pay a penny.
It'll be all right on the night, Owen.
And it does not pay a penny.
It'll be all right on the night.
I'm answering your point, which you are not listening to, Bernard.
Right.
And it is very simple. The United States has increased its exports to the European Union faster than the United Kingdom. The United States is not a member of the European Union and doesn't pay a penny in. We are a member and we paid an awful lot of money in. You do not have to be part of a supranational political organisation in order to trade with people. They will do a deal. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. They have a selfish and strategic interest in trading with us. And that will carry on. All this scare stuff they're going to leak into a big, black, terrifying hole is really for the birds. They want to work with us.
I think a lot of the scare stuff that comes from the European Union leaders, and my goodness, you just have to listen to the Today programme every morning. I think there's practically every other EU country's foreign minister has been interviewed, telling us how it would be terrible if we left and what would happen. I think a lot of that is because deep down within the rest of the EU, there are great growths particularly on the left and indeed on the right, which is actually quite worrying, within the European Union, who feeling the same as us, that they want to think of leaving. They don't like the European Union project. And what's upsetting and worrying to the Commission is that they know that if the United Kingdom actually makes this hugely historic decision on June the 23rd, that the whole edifice of this kind of pretend thing with its own union, its own flag, its own national anthem, its own 5 presidents, they can't even make do with one. They are frightened of our democracy. That's really what will happen on June the 23rd. So that's why it's not just good for democracy in this country, it's actually good for the rest of the EU as well.
Can I speak for you? Can I speak for you? And can I say, we want our country back? Why don't you say it with me? We want our country back. One more time. We want our country back. Thank you.